You're listening to the Out of the Box podcast with Timmy, Halisa, and Sinosure.
Welcome again to another episode of Out of the Box. I'm Halima and there's Duro to me and Sino Show. So today
Oluwadurotimi.
we'd like to talk about something that yes. But there are some people that would, Oluwa after there's a lot of I wanted to say Ifa Duro to me and all that because they said there's a lot that could go with that name, but yeah, we're not talking spirituality today. We're trying to talk about youth engagement in politics. There's this question about how the system is, right? Is the system rigged against the youth? That's one thing that I think we should probe, because I think we're in a time where we feel like the youth should be participating more in politics, but we're not seeing that happen a lot, and we see that the youth keep asking, for seats. There are people that would even say, this government are going to put more youth in position of power, like it's something like they're giving the youth something, or the youth are asking for something. Are the youth not supposed to be just taking these offices? And we are in a time where they're even talking about ministerial list, and a lot of people are saying, put the youth in power, put the youth in office, and all of that. So it's just a whole topic that we should start having conversations around, as it's actually also directly affect us. So yes, that's what we should talk about today. Yep. So yeah,
So,
button.
yes. Yeah, so it's a very interesting topic. I think the question should be, is the system rigged against today's youths? Because most people would argue with you that youths have held power in Nigeria before at one time or the other. I mean, people who have led this country. I mean, the ex-president of this country and his sets, those set of leaders, they all led this country in different capacities at a very young age. At a very young age, some of them in their late 20s. I think the ones that I can remember in their late 20s, they did lead Nigeria in different capacities. Some led in their early 30s, most of them led in their early 30s and everything. But we do not see that happening today, And I know you mentioned about like ministerial list and some of those things. But for me, when I look at leadership, I look at it from like top to bottom. Like there should be no part of the spectrum that a young person, a young Nigerian, should not be able to aspire, towards like the presidency itself. I look at it like, why can't we have, since we've had presidents that were like in their 30s before Nigeria, why can't we have, a 30-year-old president today? Why can't we have someone who is 35 becoming the president of this country today? So not just, as a minister, not just serving as a minister, or not just serving as maybe, the popular one, special assistant. Is this special advisor or special assistant? What they call those things again? But I know that all of those essay positions that these guys get, that's like the maximum that many young people can aspire for. So I think that it's a crazy scenario, but we do know that young people have led this country at one time or the other, back in history, but today we don't see that happening, right? And it begs, it makes us ask a very huge question. Now, is this still possible? Is this system rigged against the young people that are out here in Nigeria? So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, let's hear Sinusia's prelude before I ask my question. That let's hear it.
Hmm. Okay, then it will seem to me like youth will as well grow old, right? And just like every person in this world, one of the major features of every living thing, I believe, is growth. So, in the case where growth happens, people will leave the phase wherein you can rightly refer to them as youth. But the point is, what exactly is the definition of youth, right? What exactly is the generally accepted definition of youth? And then when you look at um, that closely, one of the things that will come to mind is what the UN. I found the information on one UN website that was around 2020 thereabout. So they said that the youth, somebody who is moving from a state whereby they are dependent, right, to an independent person, to being independent on, I mean, literally being on their own. So now the age within which people can achieve that, some scholarship work puts it between the ages of 19 and 35. But what is interesting that I would also like to point out before we go into the meat of the matter is that the Nigerian Electoral Act, if I'm not mistaken now, is it Electoral Act or the Constitution? I think it's one of them, puts age by which anyone can contest to become president, particularly. They put a certain age limit. Is it 35 or 38? One of the two. Now, that begs the question. If you say, oh, youth, can they lead? Maybe there is a limitation by the virtue of the Nigerian law. We will probe as we go. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Good. So let me say this
You
first.
know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, good.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking, I just wanted to respond to something that Sideshow said, which I really find, like it's a thought of mine that I really find, amazing, when I think about it, like the definition of what a youth is, it expands the more youths are not allowed to lead, right? So because it is becoming more and more difficult for a young person to lead, even though you are not what we may typically define as a youth or as in that bracket, that youth bracket, because people are not allowed to lead at that age. We now start expanding the brackets, and we now say, oh, we can raise that age up to like 45, up to like 50. And it's so amazing that we just finished an election where several people called a 62-year old. Oh Lord.
Senator, off
A
your
62
mic. Off your mic.
a 62-year-old man a youth. So it's crazy. So the more youths are not allowed to lead, the more that bracket is expanded. And you see an
Senator,
18-year-old
off your
person
mic.
competing with
Okay, that's a good one, honestly. So let me. Okay, I want.
Seriously,
Mm-hmm.
I also think, point of note, that some people, right, as well, use the concept, or let me say the word youth loosely. What exactly is the youthfulness about? Is it about the idea of the person? Is it about their health status? Because some people will say, "Oh, you look very youthful," especially after they have done your pulse, test your blood pressure, amongst other things. "Oh, you look your health is very youthful." Some people, by the virtue of their appearance, they appear very youthful, but at the end of the day, that loose usage or use of the word youth in itself could be a problem. So I bet it's best in this kind of situation that we're in to limit what we intend to mention or perhaps to analyze by the word youth to the fact that a youth must be a person who's within a certain age range, or perhaps a person who's within a two particular phase of life, maybe teenage to adulthood. You understand? So the conversation should be such that is guided. If it's not, that loose interpretation of youth or youthfulness would eventually be the undoing of this whole episode.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
thought to bring that up.
yeah. So I want to ask a question, right? So I know your ages, so I know your youth. No matter if no, from all
how
strata,
do you know my age?
from your age as far when you were born and from the way you think, I believe you're youth. So so during the campaign, right, for for the presidential election that has produced a president Tinubu. This is like the first time I'll say that, like, President Tinubu. This Tinubu Tinubu said that, let me ask you this, just like try to pay attention. I want to hear your initial like reaction to it. When he said power is not served a la carte, did that trigger you? How did you feel about that as a youthful person that would maybe, vie for office, or that probably would, know people that would be interested or would do better jobs, being in those positions? What did that do for you, that statement?
Well, for me, it's not a big deal. It didn't move me because I already know that. I think I know that nobody's gonna come to your house, knock on your door, and say, "Oh, I have a delivery for you." Oh, power, take power and come. No, it's not about that. I think if you want power, you're going to have to fight for it. That's just the truth. So I didn't find that surprising. So and sometimes sometimes when we talk about power being handed over to the younger generation, I think we just expect people to say, "Oh, I'm tired," like the way it is, like in the private sector, or like in like your family, where your parents have been grooming you, and immediately you're out of. In fact, they will tell you, sometimes you may even have other dreams, and your parents will not deceive you that, "Oh, yeah, just finish university first, and when you finish university, you can now go and do what you have to do." But immediately you're done with university, they just call you and tell you, "I'm tired of working." So start bringing money, and they just hand over everything to you. If they have a business, most times they just carry you along. So we have those kind of wishful kind of thinking when it comes to like political power, that these guys will just get tired and say, "Oh, younger generation, is their time. Let them just come and have it. We've ran the country for a long time, and it's time for us to hand over to them." So I understand that power is not going to be served, at our doorstep. We have to fight for it. So it didn't move me. So it's
Yeah,
yeah.
but I beg to differ. Just like I have said in the past, the best tool in the hand of the wrong person would bring forth bad results. Let me give a very good instance. The statement in itself might encourage people to put in effort when it comes to getting political power. But now, in the hand of a crook, that kind of statement, or that kind of inspiration, if they draw inspiration from that kind of statement, could mean the loss of life for a lot of people. It could mean maul them. It could mean kill them. It could mean torture them. It could mean a lot of things. Meanwhile, in itself, the author of that statement might not have intended for it to be used in such a brutal way. So when he said it, I was concerned. And my concern goes beyond the fact that he said it. It spills to the fact that a lot of people who might not be able to properly conceptualize it and who supports him, right?
Were you kind of like conscious about the statements because of the person that is coming from and the audience, his audience?
I am actually more conscious, right, that behind that statement, we might have a lot of loaded messages. I am very conscious because I know that civic education is still extremely low in Nigeria, and then people are in such a place whereby they think ordinarily that attaining political positions requires bloodshed, right? So at the end of the day, if you throw that kind of statement out, right, for someone like yourself, Timmy, it could mean, okay, let's put in more effort, more boot on the ground. Let's go to our local constituencies. Let's talk to people the more. Let's remind them of what we've said in the past. Or let's organize this on Facebook Live. Let's do Instagram posts. Let's do that. Let's do this. For some people, it means get your machete ready. If you are not going to vote for us, they are not going to vote at all. So that's why I think about it, particularly the access to threat of violence, right? The level of access to threat of violence that anybody has, right, would also influence how anyone who is listening to them would interpret such statement. And then when you say you drag it, you hijack it, you do this, you do that, and everything is so active in such a way that it sends a message like, oh, something is beyond what is being said, that is not currently being said. so to put. So, I mean, it could mean anything, but it's a dangerous, or let me say, slippery slope, so to put.
Yeah, for me, that when I heard that, I felt like it was a challenge, right? It was a challenge for youth to actually. I mean, when you hear it, I'll be like, oh, okay, I can see what you're trying to say there, and of like you said, it could mean, because me, I usually would think that you're talking to different people, like who he's talking to is probably different, but the person that's receiving the information, personally, I thought it was a challenge to youth to think, oh, actually, this is what he's saying is true, because at the end of the day, young people, they are a very large majority among the people that are voting. If youth alone and maybe women that I think actually participate actively in elections, if they could just come together and they channel their energy towards a certain candidate that they thought is youthful or is a representation of who they are, they could actually take power. And even take power kind of sounds somehow, but that we use it, and I think a lot of people understand it that way. So I just felt like it was a challenge, but that time it wasn't even as harsh. It was just harsh in the cloud until the election came and we saw how it played out. But yeah, so this whole conversation about youth in politics is usually, before, I mean, these days I used to feel like just have the right ideology. I don't want to be so concerned about your age. But we can't deny that when someone is younger, maybe the person would be able to maybe showcase more political willpower in executing some things. But
The person
yeah,
has more years on this earth, right? So that's why me, I would rather support a younger person, because when you are older, you know that although some people can argue otherwise, into flipping this ideology around and using it to suit their own narrative. But I feel like, number one of the reasons why I would rather support a youth or younger person, right, for any political position whatsoever, there are several reasons. Number one, I feel like you are you are going to be here with us for a very long time, right? So if you make any stupid mistake, you're going to live long enough for you to reap the consequences, right? That's one. Secondly, like you said, it also relates to political will, because young people go through a lot of things, right? We go through a lot of pressures. We are the group that feels the brunt of the hardship the most, right? Because when you're young, you have lots of dreams. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's different from when you're actually, like, on the older side of life, where you've accepted there are some things that you failed at, and you've accepted that, well, I failed at this thing. But young people need that room to breathe. Need that. They need a lot of they need an enabling environment. So we are the ones that feel the brunt of having a negative society the most, or having a society that does not provide you that environment that you need to thrive, right? So if a younger person is there, they will definitely have that, they will definitely have that desire to fix things, right? So again, a lot of these ideologies that are still causing problems in Nigeria today, especially when it comes towards tribalism and religion, and many of these other outdated, not to say your tribe or your religion is outdated. I'm talking about some other primordial sentiments that people still hold on to, right? I used to feel, and emphasis on used to, because this last election is now proving is now doing me one time one kind that this thing has passed on to my own generation. I feel like there are struggles of our great grandfathers and our fathers, and they shouldn't really come to our generation. So I felt like the generation where you may find the most detribalized and open-minded people that will be open-minded and receptive towards other people's religions, and though their ways of life will be amongst the younger generation. So there are so many reasons I can keep on going on and on, because I'm actually a pro youth person. I don't care. I know a lot of people will say, oh, even youth can mess it up, but me, I'll rather a youth even messes it up. You understand that? Because these people who have messed it up, they've done their own. Let us do ours. Give us chance to lead. And younger people have fresh ideas. They have new ways that they want to try things. And when you give young people opportunities, the whole economy opens up. When you give young people opportunities in business, even in like the private sector, when you give them up, they open up everything. They open up the whole thing, and they transform the whole place, into what it should be, and they bring in new ideas. So I feel like young people have those ideas, and definitely I'm definitely going to, you know I'm definitely like full-time pro youth, but it is what it is. Currently, it's not looking like young people. I think the young people are being choked, really, in the Nigerian political scene. I feel that's what's going on right now.
But do you think the youth, the young people are struggling not to be choked? Like you said, I think there a lot of people have already bought into this school of thought that you have to go through some rigorous underground work before you even try to aspire. I don't know if it's a self-esteem problem. I think that a lot of people have really been taught by, and educated by these people that were youth in their own time that are leading us now as old people, that they need to go through some sort of rigorous process before they will get to the top. And I think a lot of people have bought into that idea. And when you talk to them, they'll tell you, look at Biden. Is Biden not old? They'll tell you, okay, if you
Halisa,
don't even want to think of Joe
Halisa.
Biden, then even look at all of the world leaders that we have.
The
Majority
thing
of them are
about
older.
the thing about
And they will
examples,
tell you that, okay, maybe even France. I'm telling you this from what we
young
hear,
guy,
right?
right? The thing about
They'll tell you, look
examples,
at
the thing
France.
about
France is
examples
in
is
this
that
state now
if you are
because of
looking for the
this.
right
What's it called?
example,
People
you will
would give
find the right
you all
example.
of this.
If you are looking for the wrong examples, you will find the wrong examples. I'll give you an instance. If you are an orphan, right? Okay, let me not use orphan. Let me say maybe you lost a one of like you lost your parents or one parent at a young age. If you're looking for someone who lost one parent at a young age, right? And you want to find someone that thing transformed his life or made him go join a bad gang, you'll find that example. If you're also looking for that person that lost one parent and that thing inspired him to becoming the best of the best of the best in society, you'll find that example. So it is only those people, and many of them will tag themselves as patriots. But when you want to talk about your country, you look for the worst of the worst examples. I mean, Biden, look at, he's embarrassing himself. This guy trips, I have nothing against old people. I feel like at that age, you should be resting with your grandchildren. He's embarrassing himself. He's forgetting most of the things that he needs to say. He's calling people different names. He's addressing people that just died, and awakening emotions from families that have just lost a loved one, calling them by their name on live TV and saying that they're still going to come to work and everything. So those kind of things. If you're looking for countries that have young people as leaders that have performed extraordinarily well, very young people, I mean people in their early 30s, you would find those examples. And we've even had some of them in Nigeria. We don't even need to go far. We've had some of the best. When Latif Jakonde became a governor in Lagos, how old was he? How old was he? You know, and he was one of the best performing governors in the history of this country. So there's no debate.
Eh, May I chip in something for context? Because oftentimes we are in the course of this kind of conversation, right? And then we perhaps for one reason or the other leave one very important aspect out. When you want to discuss the youth in a public setting, in a discourse, I think it is pertinent for us to look at youth in the different form that they can exist within the political climate. There are youthful people, right? Like I said earlier, of course, that's using it loosely. But there are people, right, who are youth but are being financed by people who are elderly people to become their so those guys could become their grand patron, or let me say godfather, like we use it. And then there are youths whose parents, right, are elderly people, right, but they felt politics in itself is a business that they can do and make proper ROE, return on their investment. And then there are youth from humble backgrounds who have the competence to run positions, to make things work, to do things.
those youth also exist. So if we take the conversation towards the line of analyzing youthfulness in a way that it becomes very parochial without capturing all these different perspectives, then we'll be doing ourselves a disservice. So the point is not like from coming from an humble background, right? Early in the 1950s, 1960s, right? How easy was it to become a political leader in Nigeria? Then now, 2023, how easy is it to move from humble background to occupying elective positions in Nigeria? So I believe if we introduce those nuances, pardon me, it will help us to drive home a solution-based discourse. Because at the end of the day, if you ask today, some people will tell you youths are not being allowed. Youths are being allowed. But the question is, the youths that are being allowed, what exactly does their family look like? Are they politically exposed families? I don't know. Maybe this makes sense to us, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly a point that I would like you, myself, to include in our analysis as we go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, and it also looks like tokenism, right? Because, for example, they said a lady won a seat in Kwara State, and she's 26 years old, and everybody was celebrating it as if it's a big win. I understand from her perspective, and I appreciate that. Like, okay, yes, it's a good thing. Let's know it's a good thing in itself, maybe for her or her community or whatever. But it looks as though they would just put one youth. It's like the way you put one maybe one female somewhere, or one just for representation, just to show one. They'll put one maybe different looking individual there to show, okay, we are very inclusive, kind of thing. So I think that the conversation, the way people were even celebrating it at that point, if you remember, people were celebrating that, oh, this political party, they are the first to have a woman that's about to win an office, they are the first to have a youth that's about to win an office, and da 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 da, that youth are actually actively participating, when the youth are actually the majority population in providing electoral value, to the particular system, but they were celebrating it. So I was just like, we're just looking at tokenism. That's where it even exists, because there are some places where it doesn't even exist. We're not even seeing any signs of youth even trying to do anything that looks like that. And you made a very good point. Like, there are some youths that are being financed by, some godfathers, so they are not exactly, serving the purpose of what of the purpose that you think that a Nigerian youth in political office would serve. They would still be serving that system, that system of there's a word that I'm trying not to use, but it keeps popping onto my head. But if I end up using it, because they are still, the old people are still human beings, they are still alive. So I'm trying to not dehumanize them or make it look like, they don't have anything to offer. But like I said, this particular, it depends. But this particular system, there's no way that it has rewarded us. Some people will be asking you for facts, but you're like, if we've been here 60 years without moving forward, or if we've been here since 1999, without really moving forward, then I think that's fact enough to tell you that there should be some shock, to the system. There should be some changes, and we're looking like, okay, the viable solution would be new, fresh ideas, and who should have that? It's the youth, right? So yeah, I feel like this is a topic that, we need to expand and go to the point of, okay, who are the youths that have participated in office? What are their challenges like? Why is it such a case for them, for youth to actually like be in office? And one of those reasons would be like funding, things like funding, or things like getting support, things like projecting yourself on the right platforms. Because right now we've already projected some political parties as the main political parties opposing
Yeah,
themselves,
the
even though we
same.
understand that their
They're not similar,
ideologies
they're the same.
are probably very similar. So we don't even see why they both should be opposing each other, right? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we know who are already like, sitting in front of those seats is not the youthful people. So there's a lot of things that need to be done. There's a lot of people that we even need to hear when it comes to the conversation. There are people that have been in the system that could share more light, right? But yeah, when it comes to that, one of the limitation, there's the limitation of, okay, there's this factor of these people being there, da da da. There's also that factor of funding. There, like, why are elections so expensive? Because if you're a young person, maybe you're 35 years old, with the amount of money that you need to even use to purchase a form in a political party, to participate in an election you're not sure to win, it's millions. How do they expect a young person that we know in the current Nigerian situation that we are in, that if you are young and successful, you probably have a lot of dependents? How do they expect that person to now want to use millions to purchase a form to go and participate in election? So there's a lot.
That is where the understanding of class struggle now comes in. That it is not about being youthful, maybe by the virtue of your age, by the virtue of your health, or anything, or your appearance. It's about being actually youthful by the virtue of the ideas that you carry. The point is, any youth could just be picked up from anywhere and dropped in a political office where he is not even the one in charge or she's not the one in charge. You understand? So that takes us to that conversation of saying it should not be about tokenism, because in as much as some people find it difficult really to get access, maybe by the virtue of the law of the land. In some cases now, like I told you earlier, you cannot be president in Nigeria unless you are 35 and beyond and above, sorry. So in that case, it begs the question of, okay, what even if I have the resources and I'm younger? Or let's say, what even if it is the case that I do not have the resources, but I cause the age? Oh, what if it is the case that in the environment where I exist or perhaps live, um, poverty is endemic, and then I cannot raise that kind of resources? So such conversation really has a lot of perspective to it. But if you ask me today, within the Nigerian space, I will tell you without stuttering that youth not having access to important positions is because political offices, aspiration towards political offices in Nigeria means nothing. Your aspiration means nothing except you are a member of the ruling uh, plutocrats. I call them plutocrats for a reason. And then, of course, you can decide to call them aristocrats to some extent, depending on what you're looking at. But the point is, there is a struggle along class line that extend beyond the conversation of, say, oh, youth or not youth. There are older people who've got good ideas. Can they emerge? Oh, the party nomination form is 50 million. All of the money they've earned in the past 5 years is not up to 10 million. So what are they going to do? So that's exactly the angle that I was actually hoping that we also discuss or perhaps break down further. Because at the end of the day, governance is about delivering the dividend of good governance to the people. You get.
Yeah. So which do you think should come first? Do you think that we should fight again, like the fight should be first, try to make a system that does not maybe require you to buy a form for 50 million, or the fight should now be, okay, let's put 50 million together and try to like go in there and fight it? How can the fight be from the outside basically, or you have to like go inside there to fight it?
Oh, the point is, i- if you want to do a battle, it is logical for you to assess how you want to go about the battle. But from what we have learned, with the benefit of insight now, there is something that stands out. Every person who has ever thought of fighting from the inside, oh, let me put the money together, let me buy the form, we have often found that they get to carry a lot of baggages that makes the essence of going to those political offices defeated right from the point of raising that money, because it means you have to make a lot of compromise. You have to reach some kind of consensus with some people, right? And don't forget, he who pays the piper should ordinarily dictate the tune. You understand? So that's exactly the issue with trying to go in there to change things. However, if you stay on the outside and you say, oh, you do not want to get um, in a state or situation whereby you have a lot of blemish piled up on your garment, or let me say, you want to ensure that you are free or devoid of all of those external baggages that you can avoid, right? Then it might take a more painstaking approach, an approach that requires you to do a lot of endurance, patience. But at the end of the day, the process would free you of a lot of baggages, which makes a case for the possibility that you will be able to deliver good governance to the people you want to lead. So the point is, do you want to just go there to fill your CV, or you want to go there to serve the people? If you want to serve the people, it is wise to avoid baggages by doing it your own way from the outside. But if you just want to get your CV populated with those kind of leadership positions, then it is good for you to go on the inside and see what you can do. Don't forget, the system, every system you see has a purpose. That's exactly where I will rest.
To be honest, I think that argument comes up all of the time, but I'll say that there's no way that you can function in that system. It's just the truth. It's the bitter truth. You can't. You. It's not like these guys that have been there don't have brains or don't. I don't know about political will, but I'm sure everybody that goes into that office wants to, do. The fantastic thing about politics and governance is if you do something positive for the people, especially in a country like Nigeria, where the Nigerian population, the barest minimum is what they expect from their leaders. When you do something, just something light, like Fouls the bad guy will call it, something light, you know, these people will praise you and sing your praises for generations to come, right? But the truth is that like there's that argument, like you rightly said, that you have to go into that system because many youths are not. The truth is that in our generation, many youths are not ready to pay that price. And by paying that price, I mean trying to function outside these people who have led this country and led it from where it's supposed to be, down into the trenches. They are not ready to start something new. You know, currently, the current crop of leaders that we have today some of them are people who rejected the military at that particular if you look back into Nigeria's history, even the current president today, you know, he participated in one way or the other in struggles to transition Nigeria from a military led government to a democratic led government. But the thing is, what we see today is that many young people are not ready for any, they don't want to create anything new. That is why even in 2023 elections, when it was an opportunity for the youth to actually take it, to grab it, to steal it, many of them still went back and submitted the power to this, or should I call them the oligarchs or these people, these godfathers. So, like you've rightly said, Sinoshaw, it is almost and I just you're not. I think you are not trying to be so blunt today, but it is almost impossible for you to deliver when you operate in that particular system that has ruined us. And a lot of them, they make that argument. Oh, I can't. I all these other smaller parties. They will even join in calling you, even saying oh, it's mushroom political parties, and they feel like they are among. But like Halisa always says, people need to recognize where you belong, because you are not among, even when you feel like you're among. So we want a situation where young people can take any position, can lead any role in any capacity. So it won't be like, oh, you have to join them. First, you have to start from holding their bags. When you hold their bags, you be a special advisor. Halisa mentioned the most important factor, which is money. And this is why I feel like the system is rigged against young people. Money. A whole lot of young people don't have access to finance. They cannot finance the what Nigerian elections demands from them, right? So that money, that the issue of finance that Halisa mentioned, is one massive issue, right? And we need to be able to solve that problem in one way or the other. Elections are too expensive for young people in Nigeria. Where do you expect a young person who is not the son of a billionaire to get 50 million naira to purchase a farm, to get 20 million naira to purchase a farm? Where are they going? Given that that is just a nomination form, we still have other things that they need to pay for campaigns, elections, and the process is just too cumbersome. And I'm sure we're going to have like a second part to this podcast, and we're going to bring people who have participated, try to get into office, and they're going to share their experiences. Sometimes the reason why elections are too expensive doesn't just end at the political party itself. It also emanates from um the demands of by people, out there on the streets, when you're going to campaign and everything. It's just a whole lot, really, and that's what it is.
Hmm. I mean, this topic, this conversation, I feel like is broad, but at the same time, I feel like I don't know if it's a matter of self no, can't be that simple. I just feel like the system is formed in such a way now that I don't see a lot of unionism, if that's a way to put it. Like a lot of people don't, I don't know how many times many people have come together to achieve something. And I think that maybe people cannot reflect back and see that, yeah, we actually have the power to do this. We actually have the power to make a change if we wanted to. We don't need people to help us, or we don't actually do not, because if you say professionals, we have the professionals. Like the people working as professionals, majority of them are in their early 30s, in their 30s, in their 40s, even in their 50s. I think at this point, even in your 50s, they even call you youth. But a lot of people are professionals. A lot of people are are well read. So sometimes it just begs the question of why don't people really believe that this is something that they should actually take on? Because when it comes to this matter of, like, entering political party, I even think that many people are not will not actively come out and tell you, oh, I want to be the governor in next election. I think it's still something that people still go about it being very shy. And that's why sometimes I'm this kind of person that I'll actually sit down and study, and like I would watch videos of many people. I would watch Tinubu speak, and I would follow his chain of like conversation. I'll watch somebody like Erifai have a conversation, and I will follow what he said. Why they are able to boldly state what they want. Like they're able to be clear about it. Somebody will tell you, yes, I will become the president. But I don't see anybody, I don't see any youth that have stood up and say I will become the president of Nigeria in 2027. I mean, outside of the people that participated, in this current what's it called, this election. So when you see all of these people, how they move and how they set clear goals, and I feel like they even are even more ready to fight. Like the older people, they are even more ready to fight, and they're ready to like stand for that power. Maybe because they have backings. Maybe when you have a lot of backing, you have money, you might just be a lot more confident to talk about these things, and you have the systems in your pocket, you have the institutions at your backing you. So maybe that's what gives them the audacity, the voice. But I don't see a lot of youth and a lot of like coming out to like declare that I actually want this political power. It could also be because like I mean political office. It could also be because like previously anything political office, looked very, very icky. It looked like it was not, it looked like, okay, this position is corrupt. There was something about like running for office that was not nice enough to say and like attach it to yourself as an ambition. Right. So I think even right now, many people are saying young people are becoming more political. Young people are now actively involved in politics and all of those things, all of those rhetoric. So I think there's a lot of conversations around why young people are not.
Young people are now active in politics, but not yet for themselves. They are now active in politics, of which, when we even say that young people are now active in politics, I always want to dispute that because, yes, they are more active on social media, right? But I don't even think that is the case because in 2015, who were the people that voted Buhari? Were they old people? No, they were young people. Young people campaigned for Buhari, and we can still point out some of them who were the key campaigners because we now have more social media influencers now, right? Because we now have more celebrities than we had in 2015 and in 2011. It doesn't mean that young people have not always been active in politics. The people who delivered democracy to Nigeria, they were young people, right? They were active. They went out there. They voted, right? And from my own perspective, when I voted in 2023, the elections, a lot of young people were playing football. A lot of young people did not come out of it. In my own polling unit where I voted, I still saw lots of middle-aged people, right? So I don't want to just conclude that young people are very active yet. Maybe the interest rate is increasing, and maybe we have what we have right now. Why we think that young people are more active now is we have new mediums of communication. Like if you go on Twitter now, we now have Twitter Spaces. We now have Clubhouse where people can, before you have to call a radio station, and before you get through to that radio station, you have to be like it has to be a lucky day for you to get through. But now we now have a medium where people can communicate, where ordinary people can own the conversation. So we have more technology. But what I'm trying to say, and why I brought it in, was that young people are active in politics, but not yet for themselves. Many of them still see themselves as subjects. They don't like. Imagine I want to support Sino Show as my presidential candidate. Like we had a young guy that ran for the youngest presidential candidate in this election. I think it was about 38, Professor Imole, Christopher Imolen or something like that. you know Maybe we should even try and bring him on this podcast, next series. So he was there, but a lot of people did not take him serious. Like they were still rooting for, they were just saying, like, you were telling me to off my mic before, but people were still calling a 62-year-old man a young person. So is it that we don't feel like we can do it? Like some questions that you've asked, and I think, like you said, it's a very broad topic and
But
most
you made
likely
a
to be
very good
addressed
point.
in
Like
the.
there, young people are involved in politics, but not for themselves. That's a very solid point. But the thing is, like Sinosha also hinted previously, that it's a class struggle, and I've been trying to say it any opportunity I get. That even within the youthful people, right? There are a lot of people that have benefited from corruption. There are a lot of people that they've seen corruption firsthand, maybe through their parents. In Nigeria, it's sometimes very hard for you to escape corruption if you even grow up with a little privilege, because yeah. And I'll just be quoting people anyways, because when you make a very solid point and it's just three people, I feel like a broader audience would want to hear it, and that's why I would often repeat it. But like some people have said before, that what's it called? Slipping off my mind. ah anyways anyways, it's a class struggle basically. So even young people, even the youth selves, there are some people that you also have to be like, okay, this person is siding with the oppressor. So I don't know if I want you to be the one leading a struggle, right, to liberate the people, to like actually bring changes. Yes, you might understand Twitter. Yes, you might understand new media. Yes, you might have ideas about maybe green energy. Yes, you might have ideas about, how to, maybe like innovate some things in the economy. But if your mind is not in the right place, I mean, I would prefer to vote for another youth. Let's have the options. There's a lot of youths existing, and I mean, we have this broad, big population, so we could have a lot of people that are still for the ruling class, even if they might not even have grown up with what's it called, with a lot of privilege, but they just like see that as a viable option, or they just lack in the education to let them know that they need to be speaking more for the masses, right? So yeah, we have some youths like that, and I think we have a lot of youths like that that maybe do not quite understand, like they are not maybe as conscious enough. They've not reached a level of development a level of mental or consciousness, a mental development or consciousness that will let them know that, like, I need to make a stand on this side, and I need to speak for more for these people. So there are different types of youth that I've gotten to experience this period of time, and I look at them and I'm like, wow. I mean, yeah, you will not lead me, but I've seen a lot of youths that would also be people that I would vouch for, like, every day, right? So yeah, it's a broad conversation, and I think that I hope that many more youths would be able to understand that there are so much impoverished people in Nigeria that you cannot even be. It's kind of like really really weird or hard. It's like, in fact, almost tone deaf for you not to see it, for you to still be siding with, like, the people that have, like really really like destroyed a lot of things in Nigeria. But that being said, let's hear what you guys still have to say about this topic. This one, we're just introducing this because it's going to be an interesting one. uh what do you have to say to this conversation that you think that we need to, look into?
There are youthful oppressors. There are elderly oppressors. There are youthful oppressed. There are elderly oppressed. Elderly people that are oppressed. So it begs the question: is it about youth and the elders? No, it's about new ideas and old ideas. And me, right? I would rather stick with an elderly man who's got a new idea, since the old ideas, especially, have not worked.
uh, Adore to me.
That's my own.
Okay, I see that. I totally see that, but I feel like that gives a lot of people a loophole, right? They'll tell you that some ideas, even if they are old, but because they like this particular politician, they'll tell you that person has new idea. So do you think that we should also, like, just a contract, like, just kind of like set a little bit of a benchmark to that? Because if it's that broad, then it feels a bit subjective, to say, okay, this idea is new and this other idea is old. Well, I just like, sometimes there are some premise that we should kind of just keep a bit more objective, because when we leave it open, like, it gives room. Like, personally, I understand what you're saying, right? But I've seen a lot of narratives, or I've seen a lot of people that would easily pick apart that particular notion and say, yeah, this particular person might be old, but the person has new ideas. The person understand the kind of development or the new place of what's it called, industrial revolution that we are at. Maybe the person doesn't, but it might just get subjective like that. Mm.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. But at the end of the day, though, we must choose our struggles wisely. We can't afford to be anywhere where oppression is not, I mean, where there's no drive to end
Agreed,
oppression.
100%.
You understand? So if it is an old person who is going to ensure that oppression is nipped, oh, you old man, I enjoy it. I will be with you. And that's where we end my thoughts for today.
Okay, okay.
Definitely lovely. So I think that definitely we're going to have like more. This is going to be an explosive series of this podcast talking about youth in politics. We're going to bring in a lot of young people that have contested in run
Yeah.
for political office in Nigeria. We're going to bring a lot of them, and it's going to be explosive. It's going to be very revealing, and it's going to be something that you don't want to miss. So I think that you guys, should not miss, this entire series about young people, youths in politics in Nigeria on the Out of the Box podcast. So that's where I'm gonna say goodbye for today.
Yeah, and if you have any direction you want this conversation to go, or you have specific questions, or you've just had a thought you wanted to share regarding this issue, you should also, like, reach out to us, like follow us. We're on Twitter, OOTV podcast. So you can reach out to us and like just share your thoughts, or on any of our platforms. YouTube is also a great idea. You can go there, tell like you can also we can also pick apart what you want to hear or what you think that these conversations should be around, since you probably are a youth yourself. So yes, that's it. That's like going to be that for this particular episode until we expand the conversation a bit later. Yes, so we could round up, right?
Yep, yep, yep. It's a
Okay,
wrap.
okay. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you in our next episode.
All right, guys. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Yeah.